let's move on to some technique and some basic things that you can do as a beginner practicing at home to make sure that your first couple of weeks, your first couple of months, or gosh, the rest of your career in martial arts is enjoyable. I think a real solid foundation is obviously going to be very important. Practicing at home and practicing correctly is going to be very, very important also. First, I'd like to go over the 5 stances that we use in the classroom. Our 5 stances are: the first stance is a closed stance, feet are all the way together. An open stance, the feet are shoulder width apart. In a horse stance, we're a little bit wider and we push straight down on the floor. You'll notice my knees are above my feet. Horse stance is not here. If you push out on the floor, it's not very strong. Feet come in a little bit more as we push down on the floor. Now we get a great increase of body weight. I mean, you can tell if I was standing on your foot right here and I started pushing down, 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 you would feel that increase of the body weight. Well, what is power? It's mass, body weight, times how fast you throw it. So I weigh more down here, so my punches and my blocks, they're all going to be stronger. So the greater the stance, the more body weight we've got, obviously the more power we're going to have. So in that horse stance again, here, pushing down on the ground. The front stance, we start shoulder width apart, and you'll see my left leg is in front now, but as I stepped into that front stance, notice how my feet stayed shoulder width apart. It's one of the biggest things I correct out of beginners is they tend to go into a stance as more one foot in front of the other. They do that because that's the width that you walk at. So if I just say, all right, step out with your left leg, make a nice long stance, this is where the step normally goes. Even if we're shoulder width when we start, and I say, okay, now stay wide, stay shoulder width apart. As you step into that front stance, we tend to see this. They'll step in and we're back narrow. These longer stances have to be a little bit wider to support the upper body weight. So the front stance, we say we're shoulder width apart. The front knee is bent down where you can't see the toes. Back leg is locked out straight. All 10 toes pointed straight forward. That all 10 toes pointed straight forward, serious about that. Don't let your toes point sideways. So the drill to help make the front stances work for you and be much, much, much stronger in class would be to stand in an open stance and just step into a left front stance, step back, step into a right front stance. As you step into that left front stance, do not let that right foot turn out. Keep all 10 toes pointed straight forward. Stay wide, stay wide, stay wide. You notice as you're stepping down, quadriceps is getting stronger, also kind of a mini lunge. But just practice over and over and over, stepping forward or even stepping backwards and staying wide with all 10 toes pointed straight forward. I promise you, if you practice that drill at home and you come to class and you're doing your drills in class, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say, you've been practicing, haven't you? Because I'll be able to tell the way you step into those stances exactly how much practice you've been able to do at home. All right, the 5th stance that we use in class is a back L stance. Now, I'll do the back L stance sideways. The back L stance is this. It's only a shoulder length. Both knees are bent down, and we take the body weight and move that hip over the back heel. So, you want to lean back, and essentially in this back L stance, you have the ability to pick your front leg up without moving your upper body. If you've got some weight out here on this front leg, you can't really pick the leg up and hold it without moving back and then lifting the leg up. Well, you should have already been back there. So the back L stance is here where, again, we check the stance by lifting the front leg up, and there should be very little movement in the back L stance. So if I were to step out with my left leg, that would be a left side forward back stance. If I were to step out with my right leg, that would be a right side forward back L stance. In the front stance, left leg in front is a left front stance. Right leg in front is a right front stance. Of course, the horse stance is the horse stance, or it's also called a middle stance. Open stance is the open stance, and closed stance, feet are all the way together. We say there could be one more stance, the ready stance, chunbi. You'll hear that in class. Chunbi is a Korean word that means go to ready stance, where students will step out, feet shoulder width apart, and hands will circle out here in front of them. That is called a ready stance, and this means I am ready. I'm ready to focus, I'm ready to be disciplined, I'm ready to practice. If you're not standing in ready stance, the instructor will not teach the drill. So we call the class to order by saying chunbi. Everybody says, yes sir. Fire out into ready stance really strong and hold this position. No moving. I always tell this story about my instructor. You know, if somebody moved in ready stance, when I was white and yellow belt in class, you'd take their belt off, you'd throw it in the trash can and tell them, "You don't deserve that belt, sir." And in his heart, he meant that. And he was thinking this, that if I can't get you to stand still and focus, how am I going to teach you how to do all these wonderful self-defense moves? How am I going to teach you how to break boards? How can I teach you that stuff if I don't have basic attention? So ready stance is meant to make sure all the class is ready and focused and disciplined. So again, when we're in ready stance in class, there is no moving. So 5 stances, if you want to count ready stance as a 6th stance, there's 6 stances that we use in class. We have closed stance. And we might be doing a kicking drill where we step to a closed stance and do our kick. We have an open stance. You can see we start our kick. We say, all right, step to an open stance, throw the kick, and then step back. We have horse stance. Double shoulder width apart, pressing straight down on the floor. Front stance. Shoulder width apart, all 10 toes pointed straight forward. Nice long length in the front stance. And the back L stance. Leaning back over the back leg. Easily picking the front leg up without moving the body. And chunbi, which is the Korean word, which means go to ready stance, which is here. Feet are shoulder width apart, hands are circled out in front of you. Those are our 5, say 6 stances that we work from in class. And those stances are, they're our foundation. I mean, if I punch, that's great punch, but just standing here, that's 200 pounds of body weight times how fast I hit somebody. What if I had 400 pounds of body weight? All right, let's do it. Let's step into a great stance. Put me on some scales right now. The moment I hit the bottom of that stance, tell me what that weight is. It's a lot more than 200 pounds. So again, mass times acceleration. We use stances to increase our power. Now some of these stances in this traditional curriculum is you might not use in self-defense. I actually punch from here, but in self-defense, hopefully if I had to punch, I would be lowering my body weight down at the same time I'm punching. So again, it's kind of over-exaggerated, these longer, deeper stances in our traditional martial arts curriculum. But practically speaking, the stance will be a little bit shorter, but the same principles will apply. We'll still push down really, really, really hard on the stances. Now, our basic blocking techniques that you'll need to know to successfully go from white belt to yellow belt in our system. First, we'll start with a low block. A low block, essentially, just doing this. If I'm in a left front stance, I'm going to block with my left hand down by my left knee. The reaction arm or the other arm is placed on the ribs on the side of the body. From here, the chamber just goes about forehead level, out away from the body. The action arm blocks, the reaction arm pulls back to the side. So we have the chamber, and then the hands come down, and you'll notice both hands will twist at the end of the block. That shows great focus in the block. So it's not just about this motion, but about making a twist at the end. Again, one of those extra little things that helps get you good power in your technique. Now, sine wave is something that we'll use a lot in our explanation of our basic technique and to make this more intermediate to advanced technique. What are you going to do to get more power? You're going to drop down in your stance. We talked about that. In Taekwondo, that's called sine wave. The way everyone comes up and they drop deep in their stance. So as I drop down, I'm low blocking. You see the body lowering, which obviously is increasing my body weight. But from here as a stationary block, I may come out of the stance and drop back down in the stance each time. So now I'm using a lot of martial art principles to create more power, not just standing there wiggling my arms thinking I'm making good power with that, but actually using that sine wave, using that drop. With the right leg in front, see, I take the right hand, make an X, and come up about forehead level, and then from here the right hand goes down to the right knee, the left hand comes back to the side. So here's my suggestion for practice. Get in your front stance, shoulder width apart, all 10 toes pointed straight forward. Make your X come up about forehead level, out away from your body. Action arm goes to the knee, reaction arm goes back to the side. Sometimes this will do different things. Train that thing to come back all the way on the bottom ribs on the side of your body. So let's do 8 or 10 blocks on this one side, dropping down. Again, if you do something like this, make sure, correct that before you go into the next move. But let's chamber and do some right low blocks. Let's switch and do some low blocks on this side and just train the body how to make this low block. All right? The next block is an inner forearm block. It's typically done in a back L stance as a beginner. All right. So if I make my left side forward back L stance, the ending position for the inner forearm block is here. 120-degree blocking angle. Fingers are facing backwards. Reaction arm placed back on the side, just like this. The inner forearm block is chambered. There's our X, about forehead level again. And then the block comes out. There, you see it leaning back over the back leg, good 120-degree angle. The thumb is about eyeball level, somewhere along in there. Reaction arm set back tight on the side. So we make an X and we inner forearm block. You notice the blocking hand is the furthest hand away from the body, and inner forearm block. Again, lean back as you practice the inner forearm block. One of the biggest mistakes here is students will not be in a back L stance. Make sure you're leaning backwards. And there tends to be a block that comes back like this. Too much bicep. We got to reach out. This will make the block very, very, very strong. I'll be explaining that in the classroom to make sure you understand why that is so much more important we block here than here. And the right side forward back L stance, making the X with the right hand the furthest away from the body, and bringing that right hand out at 120 to 130 degrees. Reaction arm back on the side. Make sure we're leaning back over the back leg. All right. The next technique that I'd like to teach you is a punch. The punch in the traditional martial arts curriculum comes from the side, and it's full range of motion, all the way out, all the way back. Now, why punch from here? Because it's stronger. Technique is defined as maximum power with least wear and tear on the joint. You punch harder from here than you do from right here. Now, if I got into a bad situation, yeah, I'm going to be strong legs, strong eyes, strong body, strong voice, strong hands. I'm going to be backing somebody down. And if I have to punch, that punch is going to come from right here to the target and back. I'm not going to have time to load it and throw it in full range of motion. Plus, my face is open. It's not realistic to punch from there in a bad situation. In the classroom, though, we're exercising. This is full range of motion. Full range of motion is stronger. It's better for the body. It's better for the joints. We'll practice both ways. The realistic version and, of course, our exercise version. So to make our punch, palm is down, palm is up. As you go out, both hands twist. They twist at the end. So just practice twisting at the end. Reach out, twist at the end. Coming out, twist at the end. And what we're trying to use with a pullback arm is a basic fulcrum, like a teeter-totter. One side goes down hard, the other side goes up hard. One side goes up slow, the other side goes slow. So essentially what we're doing with a punch is I'm trying to pull back faster to send the other side out there faster. If I pull back slow, the other hand goes slow. Well, the way that would work in a realistic situation would be I would not be punching with one hand. When I punch with this right hand, my left hand is going to pull back. So I get that fulcrum working to increase the speed of the punch to make the punch stronger. So again, we increase the speed of the punch using that. We increase the body weight by pressing down. And we have someone who's smaller who can punch really, really, really hard against an attacker who may be a lot larger than themselves, giving us a lot of confidence in our self-defense so that we don't have to use our physical martial arts. We can walk away from the fight knowing that we've just done a good thing. Okay, so back to the punch. Full range of motion. What I'd like you to practice is some punches in a horse stance where you use your sine wave, where you practice dropping and punching at the same time. Pull back fast, pull back hard. Make sure the stance is not doing anything funny down here. Make sure the knees are out, pushing down on the floor, and time your drop and your punch at the same time. Also like you to practice in a front stance, where maybe you're in a left front stance and you're practicing stepping, staying wide, shoulder width apart. Shoulder width apart, all 10 toes pointed straight forward. But as you're stepping now, in a left front stance, your left hand is out, right hand back on your side. At the end of your step, practice your punch. And then do the same thing going backwards. Step back. At the end of the punch, at the end of the step, make the punch. So we step, 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 step. Punch at the end of the step. Step, 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 step. At the end of the step, make the punch. Do the same thing with the right leg in front. Practicing the left hand going, left leg going forward, making the left punch, stepping back, and making the right punch again. Do this at the end of the step. Very important. Very important. Okay, that is your basic techniques from white belt to yellow belt to learn your pattern. The pattern is called Chun-Ji. It has 3 techniques in it. It has a low block, has an inner forearm block, and has a step punch in it. In the next video, we'll be talking about the Chun-Ji pattern and how to perform that.